Welcome to this week's Weekly Lift with me, your host, Latoya Logan. If this is your first time joining me for a talk, thank you. If you have come back, thank you too. This week, we're going to continue with the conversation around trauma. And I really wanted to get into trauma responses this week, but I want to, pivot a little bit from that and really talk about what causes trauma and then the impact that that has on our worth. I have been training for the past 3 weeks on trauma and incarceration, trauma connected to suicide, trauma within the Black community, and how we can really disrupt this cycle of trauma influencing outcomes for the health and safety of our communities. So today, I really just want to talk about the effects of trauma on our personhood. So in the last video, we defined what trauma was. And if you go back or if you recall, I told you trauma is anything you say it is. We as clinicians do not assign trauma to clients. We are there to help you name your experience. And sometimes your experience will be depression. Sometimes your experience will be stress. And other times it might rise to the level of trauma. Trauma is really important that when you are going through your journey of understanding trauma, your experiences, that you don't take ownership of your trauma. And oftentimes that's what happens to us when we experience something that is overwhelming. We want to make meaning of it. And so we will assign a value to that experience that then makes it somewhat magical or special. And then it's hard to heal from it, because if I'm supposed to learn from this thing, then this thing is a good thing and I have to own that. When we're doing trauma recovery work, one of the things we really try to help clients understand is that they are not their trauma. Their trauma does not own them. They are not beholden to their trauma. Trauma is destructive. It has no teaching value. It isn't a great instructor. It enters into your life and it really works hard to impact your self-esteem, your self-worth, your identity. It erodes trust and builds up a fear in you that, you may not want to interact with people. You may not believe in yourself anymore. You may give up things that you really wanted to pursue or love because this trauma convinces you that you are now a changed person. And if you go a step further, that you might be damaged or you might be broken or you might be so messed up, as my clients sometimes say, that, well, nobody will want me or nobody will understand me. And so I will choose to retreat into myself. The best advice I can give you this week, and maybe for the rest of your life, is that if you were able to find meaning in your life, to love yourself, to still want to pursue connection with other people despite having gone through trauma, it isn't the trauma that taught you that. It's you. It's something deep down in you that is innate to how you came into this world. Those qualities and characteristics, whether you are bullheaded, whether you are hopeful and optimistic, whether you just believe in second chances, whatever qualities you pulled on to face and confront trauma, that's the wisdom of it, not the trauma, you. So it's important that if you've gone through something difficult, you don't have to own that. You don't have to say, I'm a traumatized person. We have this bad habit in our world of saying somebody is bipolar. They're not bipolar. They are a human being who might be trying to manage the illness of bipolar. And it's the same thing with trauma. You are not your trauma. You are so much bigger. And every time you assign value to your trauma, what you do then is you diminish yourself. You diminish the value that you have. You make it very difficult to take a risk on yourself because you believe somehow that this trauma is who you are. You are the gift. You are bigger than that. So when I say you have to let go of owning that trauma, it means you have to start seeing yourself and recognizing how you respond to things. Maybe you become very defensive. Maybe you live in a state of denial. Maybe anger has become your best friend because it's easier to express that anger than it is to say, I'm overwhelmed, I'm humiliated in this moment, or I might feel shame, which are all normal responses to trauma. Whenever we experience trauma, our brain, and I mean, anytime we experience discomfort in general, our brain starts to seek pleasure. We're looking for a way to calm ourselves and to return to a state of contentment, a state of safety, a state of connection. And those things may not occur if we don't know how to separate ourselves from our trauma. So, thinking of multiple ways that trauma impacts us. Well, one, it can create cognitive bias. And cognitive bias is just a clinical way of saying it impacts your perception. So if your trauma was a violation of your body, someone betrayed you, or someone hurt you, then that trauma can make you believe that there's no one in the world to be trusted, that that's just what people do. If your trauma was just about being in a natural disaster and you feel very disempowered by that, because what could you have done to prevent it, then that can make you lack self-trust, really, confidence and self-esteem. So it's really important to understand the type of trauma you've experienced so you can tie it to how you're responding, and then you can pull a little bit deeper on your coping skills. When I say that you are not your trauma, what I mean is everything that you are is because of you, how hard you're willing to work, how much you're willing to push through. Do not allow trauma to take another moment of your life. It already took, and it doesn't have a right to occupy any more space, to take any more time, or to take responsibility or to take credit for the great things that you are going to do in this world. Next week, we are really going to dive a little bit more into our crisis response and how we can establish safety when we've lost it as a result of our trauma. But for this week, I just want you to think about yourself, highlight the qualities and characteristics about you, highlight the strength that you have, and remember that is the wisdom that you have. That's the wisdom that you pull on, not your trauma. It is a pleasure to be able to share this with you. I can tell you emotionally, I am carrying a lot from really working in the last 3 weeks with the different populations I've been working with. And it has been truly a gift to be able to step into this world and help people. But that means too that I have to engage in self-care. So if you're watching this video and you are impacted emotionally or mentally or spiritually, I would encourage you to take a moment, close your eyes, and inhale deeply. And exhale out. And do that until you are able to restore safety, grounding, and peace. It is my goal to empower you. Please feel empowered in knowing that your very existence is the gift, and you are worthy because you are. Have a wonderful week.